First of all, how are you doing, mate? Long time.
Amazing. Yes, it's been a couple months. It
Yeah,
looked like such a cool place. You were hanging out in Bangalore last time we chatted. I need to get up there.
absolutely, absolutely. But man, I'm telling you honestly, the intensity of this session is that the attendance of this session is probably going to be more than my core sessions that I do on Saturday. So it's a much excited, much hyped session that I've put across. So I think most everybody from all walks of life is super interested to chat to you, talk to you, learn from your experiences. So first and foremost, thank you very much for coming in. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and connect and hear how product management is going for y'all.
Awesome, awesome. So, for everybody, the first request is please show your faces. The most ugly person is already showing his face. So, I would request all of you to show your faces. But the structure of the session is for the first 5 minutes, it'll be a general introduction. Then, post that, I'll have a couple of questions, 3, 4 questions with Akash, learn specific, trying to ask him good questions. And the last 30 minutes, I would want people to raise their hands up, and I will bring one person in the spotlight and they can ask a direct question to Akash. And for the last 5 minutes, I'll keep a buffer of 5 minutes, but I want to finish the session by 8:35, looking at the interest of time. Awesome. So let me quickly start by giving a brief introduction to a guest who needs no introduction. Let me just try to do that. Yeah. So my friend Akash, he started his career as a double major in economics and psychology. Again, very envious for me because I'm the person who did engineering in India. Yeah. Then he did his MBA from Wharton, which is one of the prestigious MBA schools. In the first 5 years of his career, he was a dynamic force, taking on roles in growth and product at Rap to Beats and ThreadUp, right? Post that, he moves to Epic Games, which is again Fortnite, lot of other Unreal Engine, right? That's something that I loved all my life, right? Uh, Stayed there as a lead PM for 2 years. Following that, he was the head of product growth at a firm, and more recently, he was at Apollo.io, right? Parallel to his corporate achievements, whatever, and there is another very interesting and enterprising journey that I really like about him. That is his journey as a content creator. He really, really scaled that thought of deep insights on product-led growth, and his case studies are learned all across the globe, right? And he's the LinkedIn top voice, and more importantly, a friend I deeply respect. So thank you very much, mate, coming in. Yeah, awesome.
Wow, that was too kind of an intro. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And what I've observed in product management is that, nobody's situation is the same. So I just try to share sort of my humble experiences. And that's what I'll try to share now is, what I've learned from my experience. But gosh, is this one of the most varied and diverse careers out there?
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, just starting the first question on that only. I think you have had a very enterprising career as a product leader, as a growth leader. I would really want to ask you a deep question that how do you define a good leader, right? And more specifically, a good operator. And I'm not really talking about a product manager per se. I'm talking about anyone like a marketing leader, a sales leader, right? And what are the core principles that have shaped you as an individual in these diverse roles, and how did you navigate that across? What were those principles? Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe let's first reflect on some of the best product leaders I've worked with, because I think that they really fall into one of three core archetypes. And then I'll reflect on which archetype I exemplified most and how I enacted that. So the number one archetype, probably the most common archetype that I see for product leaders succeeding, I would say probably 50 to 60% of the VPs of product who I really respected, they were tacticians. And fundamentally, I think product content totally ignores this because product content is always talking about process. But what these people did is they fricking knew what to build. They are studying everybody else in the space. Let's say you're working at Flipkart. They're studying the best e-commerce companies in the Middle East, in China, in Africa. They're understanding these are the innovations that really drove Mercado Libre in Brazil, that really drove M-Pesa in Kenya. Here's what I'm going to bring to Flipkart in India. So this tactician is incredibly underrated. And that's why so much of my content is literally just analyzing products, because I feel this is a complete gap where you see a lot of APMs publishing their case studies, but frankly, they're not very high quality. So let's get a product leader who's telling you this is the facets of the product that are making it succeed. Because I feel this tactician archetype is the archetype probably you listening, you should try to become as well, which is to say, you could look at any PM in your company, your org today, and you would already know, hey, you know what? These 3 items on his roadmap, they're not going to work. And come 6 months from now, you are right. On top of that, when he comes to you, hey, Shravan, my roadmap is not doing well, you already have the ideas. Yeah, I think you should do this, this, and this. And it turns out when he implements those, you were right. This is the tactician persona. This person doesn't always rise super fast. So they're not like VP in 8 years. But once they're VP in 15 years, boy, do they stay, they stick around. Often you'll find them stuck at the same company for the rest of their career because the company really does value that so much. This is archetype 1. Second archetype is the politician. So I think this is probably the second most common archetype, anywhere from 25 to 30% of product leaders. So these are the people who can bring along the executives and all of the cantankerous other stakeholders in the organization in such a way that they're really helping their team. So people tend to love to work for politicians. I think tacticians can actually be kind of hard to work for because they might hand you a solution. And, Marty Kagan told me you can't be handed a solution. So they must be a bad product leader is how you feel sometimes working under a tactician. But under a politician, it's like, oh, I had a problem with legal and they sent a DM and solved it. I had a problem coming up with a alpha customer. They already have a good relationship with our top customer and they've gotten our top customer's CEO to be the advocate for my feature. So politicians are really fun to work for. And then the final group is the craftsman. So I think that this is the one that probably like product content teams to hold up to the highest bar, which is like this person writes the best PRD. If this person is doing some individual contributor work, their feature results write-up blows your mind, right? If they do a product review, the CEO is nodding their head and never complains. So these are kind of the 3 categories from most common to least common. As you might guess, I was also a tactician. That is fundamentally my strength is when I worked at Apollo, the first thing I did is I talked to 5 customers of each of our top competitors. So I had a very good idea what is actually at a deep level driving success in my competitors' products. So coming in on day 1, then people said, wow, Aakash, you really hit the ground running. You had a lot of ideas. And that's because that was kind of my archetype. And so I needed to play into my strength there by preparing there. And so that's what I did the 2 weeks before I joined. And that's also how I kind of grew my career overall.
Awesome. That's so lovely to know. But the way I kind of articulate this is probably you told the tactician is that person who probably does deeper discovery, understands more about the customer, more about the problem in general, and then tries to suggest solution because he has enough context. I think the question that I really want to ask you the next is that over time, I think the role becomes from indispensable to indispensable and from indispensable to dispensable again, because you have to groom people in that attitude. How do you do? So don't you become over time a tactician has to become a politician at some point, and it is an overlap? Does that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, that highly resonates with me. I think in my experience, even at Google, when I saw like the most successful VPs, even if you go listen to an interview of Neil Mohan, he's not like a politician type. You can just kind of tell, like he's a little bit abrasive, even with the YouTube interview people who are interviewing him, right? But he has a very strong idea about every single feature YouTube has ever released. He almost has like a Magnus Carlsen. Like, Magnus Carlsen can recall just about every chess game that's famous that's been played, even before his birth, like 1977. He can tell you, hey, who won this game in this Russian scenario? I think Neil is kind of the same, where he'll kind of refer like, oh yeah, the Google Ads team, they actually tried this. And so we're not going to be trying that over here at YouTube. When I ran that organization, I learned that. So I actually fundamentally have found that you can ride the tactician all the way to CEO of YouTube, which if it was an independent, I think it would be, $250 billion company. So I think that in general, people feel this pull towards the politician. The problem is everybody plays politics. Very few are good at politics,
Yeah.
right? Like being Modi and getting all these people on board to like you is much easier said than done. In actuality, at least for me in particular, when it comes down to those nuanced interactions, like how in my one-on-one with the VP of PMM truly get them on board with my vision, there are probably people who are better than that at me. And so that's where I ultimately lean back in the tactician. But I agree that as you grow, especially I would say director, VP, CPO, and some people move from CPO to COO. So we recently saw Karandeep at Brex. He was CPO, he became COO.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing trajectory. And as you do that, I think you're 100% right. Very strong insight there. You have to become a politician. If you're going to move out of product, at that point, your role really extends into that realm.